It's me and Roscoe again. I'm Shelly Terrell, and we're here every Friday teaching you a new lesson or showing you a new idea to get your students, your language learners excited about learning English. So today we're going to talk about an exciting subject, comic tools and lesson ideas. And you can get a certificate of attendance to show your directors and stuff. This is absolutely free. And the recordings are free as well. So if you go to bit.ly/capital ELTLINK lowercase s, you'll find all that information, the recordings where you can get your certificate of attendance, and also you'll be able to get all of the bookmarks in the presentation. Ryan's going to go for a little bit. So I'll put that in the chat box. Just click on the tabs and you'll find all of this information. You'll even find the slides. So you're free to invite anyone you want. We have American TESOL shared this week. We have over 100 Free Friday webinars recorded. So this is officially over 150 webinars that I have conducted. Our online presentations, because I've presented at other places as well. So I'm very excited about that. I think it's quite an accomplishment. And the majority of those have been free. So they're free for teachers, which is always a wonderful, wonderful thing. The great thing about using comic books is it's a great way to learn English, but not only is it a great way to learn English, it's also a fantastic way to get your students to really get into what they read. So it's a great way to share if they have an article that they just read, how to get them excited about it, a book, to teach them a new subject and things like that. And so I'll give you some ideas with that as well. It's good for young learners, for high school students, also good for middle school students. So, and you can even use it with adults as well. There are some comic creation tools, like the speech bubble tools in particular, that are very good for adults as well. Oh, you do? You have 2 pugs? That's fantastic. Yes, the dog will be giving some ideas. The first idea, so I'm going to go ahead and get to the ideas. And with some of the ideas, you'll see some of the tools. Now, there are over 30 different free comic creation, speech bubble caption tools out there. And all of these you'll find bookmarked in the bit.ly address. You'll also find things such as a slideshow that says 26 ways to use comics in the classroom. You'll see a Scoop It that has hundreds of resources and articles on how to use comic creation tools with language learners. So you'll find all of these really great, incredible resources. But one way is to use it as reading material. A lot of books these days come in comic form, but you can also teach with comics as well. There are also English language books. If you check the different course books out there, publishers, and I didn't put any on because I like to give free things. I like to show free things. But if you look at your publisher, you can usually find a section that talks about comics. So a lot of times they'll have comics made specifically for English language learners. This is a really big thing in Japan, actually. There are classic novels such as Jane Eyre, Pride and Prejudice, different kinds of Charles Dickens books that are in comic book creation form, graphic novels. So they have it to where it visualizes it because it's easier for English language learners to see comics. And the reason why is because it gives them a visual component to understand some very difficult concepts. But you can find a lot of great reading material out there too. This is a really fantastic app. Let's see, where did I put my iPad? There it is. That you can get on your iPad or you can use with the mobile device. You'll find comic creation tools as well. Marvel has it on their Android as well. So you can find these in a lot. So if you do use mobile devices and you can connect to the internet, this is a free app. It has hundreds of comics. It has free comics as well. And there are some other apps that I have included within the Pearl Tree list. So if you go to that bit.ly list, then you'll find all of those free comic apps. So another idea, so not only to use it to teach, so you can help your language learners understand different concepts, but you also may want to use it to Visualize research. You can now write research papers in comic form. Here is one particular one. It's spinweaveandcut.com. It is an entire research paper for Columbia University for a doctorate. A doctorate student is doing this for Columbia University. So he argues like why comics are really fantastic to teach with. That's actually his dissertation, is teaching with comics. So your students can write this as essays. And if a student in Columbia who's doing his doctorate is allowed to create his dissertation in comic book form, then I think it's very okay. It's becoming more of a norm, because it is quite a difficult concept. But if you think about it and you look at his different diagrams, you can see how it works in research. It's a great way if your students do any kind of experiment or they're doing any kind of research, it's a great way to include diagrams. So when they use the comic book creation form, they can visualize and they can textualize a lot of the different types of things that they're talking about, some very, very difficult concepts. So it's a great way for them to write research papers and essays as well. You can use it to introduce a lesson. So let's say you're talking about restaurants. Well, you can use a comic about a restaurant, and you can create your own, and then you can have the students get involved and interested. It could say something like, this week we're learning about restaurants. And then another character could say something like, my favorite food is, and then you can bring out some of the themes before you teach it. It's a great way to teach idioms or phrases. Here is an example from Pixton.com. And a lot of the excerpts today are actually from the digital storytelling class that I'm teaching right now, along with 9 other teachers for the EVO sessions. Now that's free as well. We have about 200 teachers, and one of the things we did is we have them for the second week. We're now in the last week, but you're welcome to access any of the resources. We talked about comic creation tools, and what they have to do is they have to go and they create different, they use the different comics and stuff, the teachers, to visualize different things as well. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the link for that so you can see all of the comic creation tools and the way they're using it in the classroom. So you'll see this one as well, because I know it's a little difficult to see, but it's a great way to have characters visualize. And so after you teach like a list of idioms and phrases, then you can have them go and they can create a comic that shows the meaning behind it, because they have to put the visual elements. You can do it to post an interview. So if your students interview each other, then comic creation tools are great to visualize this, because you can have 2 characters speaking, and then in the background you can add things like maybe they ask about their favorite places to go, maybe they talk about their job. So you can find a lot of comic book tools out there that'll be really good to put all of that in the background. There are certain types of comic creation tools, such as Criada, that give you the ability to put the background and things like that. So, and then I'm going to tell you a trick later, because the only thing you have to be concerned about with the comic creation tools is that a lot of times they don't allow embedding. So what you have to do is you have to take a screenshot of the image. So you have to save the image somehow, and then what you can do is you can use the image and you can upload it and post it like that. So a lot of times you'll have you can use Jing.com if you don't have a Mac. If you have a Mac, then it's, I believe, Command Shift 4 will take a screenshot. So it's much easier on a Mac, I think. But that's one trick, is that you definitely want to go ahead and you want to use the comic creation tools. You want to take a screenshot of it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to give you the link to Criada, because that allows you to set up different types of things in the background, and it's great for posting interviews. You can explore language in jokes. So a lot of times when we're teaching jokes, it's great because jokes are very cultural and specific to language. You have to understand some very deep English to understand a joke. Knock knock joke. So you can do knock knock joke. Knock knock. Who's there? Orange. Orange who? Orange, you glad I'm not going to tell another knock knock joke. So it's a way to explore different things in language. Instead of orange, then they can, they can show how orange is supposed to, it sounds a lot similar to aren't you glad, and things like that. It's a great way to explore political issues. You can have a lot of political cartoons. You see those in the paper. So you can actually take a political cartoon. You can show it to your students. And when you show the political cartoon, they can examine it and they can study it. And then they can create their own political cartoon using any of the 30 comic tools out there that you think would be appropriate for this. One of the things about this, the comic creation tools, is that when you're exploring political issues, they can do this to also highlight a news article. So if you're teaching news or you're teaching a current event, like let's say, for example, you're teaching about the debt crisis for Europe, and that's coming around in Spain and Germany. And so if you're teaching something like that, then you can have them maybe create comics that really explore the issues of why that's happening, or maybe they have critical ideas about their government and what's happening with the government. So it's a great way to get them to exhibit that information in a comic form. Sometimes really tough issues like that, it's easier to visualize with a comic, and so they can study how political. The great thing about political cartoons is that a lot of the drawings and things like that happen to also have symbolism as well. So for example, in America, you'll see a lot of different political cartoons in the newspaper, and you'll probably see some for you as well. And a lot of times you'll see an elephant in political cartoons here. And I believe that stands for the Democratic Party, and then we have the donkey as the Republican Party. So this would symbolize something in a political cartoon. So they can take these different types of visual symbols from your country or whatever topic they're exploring, and they can add that to their political cartoon. So it's a great way to show the symbolism as well with different political ideas as well. You can explore society issues. So this particular comic teacher created on our Evo group, and it's really great because they did it from stripgenerator.com. But the great thing about it is on Strip Generator, which all of these tools are free, by the way, but the great thing about it is they visualize bullying. So this comic is about bullying, and it's to show their students the highlight, bullying, which is a really tough issue. And so sometimes when we're talking about moral issues and dilemmas with our students, it's a great idea to put it in a comic form and to have our students create comics with those ideas as well. So for this particular one, she could show her comic about bullying, and then you could have the lesson be create your own comic of a time you were bullied or a time you witnessed someone being bullied, and then they can go and they can represent that as well. It's a great way to introduce yourself or another person. You can put your favorite things on there. Kriyaza is really good with that, the KriyazaEducation.com. There's a Garfield comic. You'll see that in a little bit. Toon Duel. You'll see that in a little bit. Make Believe. All of these are really great tools for showing about yourself. We do something called, if you look at that link for the digital storytelling, you'll see where some of our participants did 3, 2, 1 introductions. They had to list in a comic. Some of them put 3 things we should know about them, 2 places that they would like to visit, and what they would like to be, what their dream job would be if they were not teachers. Of course, for your students, you say what your dream job is, and then they can tell it. They can put a little comic of it. They could put a fireman, or they could put all kinds of different things. They can explore the meaning behind quotes. So let's say you have to be or not to be, which is a quote from Shakespeare. They could put this in a comic and they can show kind of a situation around it. They can create how someone comes to say to be or not to be. That is the question. So these quotes tend to be quite vague, but it's a great way for them to study the language behind it and to show a visual representation and contextualize where that kind of quote would be very useful and how someone would use it, and maybe in modern terms as well. It's a great way to show how to accomplish a goal. So one of the things that I have my students do at the beginning of the year, they go on a wall wisher and they post, and I didn't bookmark that, but I can give you a link to that right now so you can see what it looks like. But I've done goal setting, and what they do is they actually go and they set their English language learning goals. They say what they would like to do with their English language goals. So one of the things I do is after they say, oh, I need to use it for work, I want to improve my reading skills, I want to pass my TESOL test or something like that. Whatever the goal setting statements are, after they do that and they post it on the wall wisher, they can go and they have to make a plan. They actually have to make a plan that says what they're going to do to accomplish that goal. So if they want to improve their listening scores or their listening skills, then they'll say something like, I'll listen to podcasts, I'll listen to radio programming, because sometimes in the country you have an English program on there as well. In Germany we also had an English program in various countries that I visited. Or they can say they'll watch films and scripts. So here's a goal that they have here. Someone is saying their goal is for vegetables. And this is something one of our students did as well. But after they set the goal, then they can put within the comic how they're going to accomplish that goal. What's the plan? How do they plan on doing it? So it's really great to get them to do that as well. And let me go ahead and give you the link to the Garfield comic, which would be good for adults and for different age groups as well, especially if they're familiar with Garfield. Highlight the rules. So it's a great way, if you have rules in the classroom, then what you can do is after you come up with the rules, I always get the students in a circle, and after we come up with rules together, we write it on butcher paper. We say, okay, what are ways that we can make the class better? And they'll say things like line up, they'll say come to class on time, turn in your homework, those kind of things. So after we come up with the list, then I'll say choose one of these, or I'll cut them up in strips of paper and then I'll pass it to, they just pick it out, and then what they have to do is they create a comic that visualizes that rule. This is a great way to do it, because a lot of times you'll get these large books or these large worksheets and papers that says a bunch of rules, and then none of the students ever read the rules. They don't really comprehend it. So this way they reflect on the rule, and then it's better for classroom management. It's a great way to give visual instruction. So this is a really great site. You'll find it's comics that teach you different concepts. Here is one that says how to make ice cream, but there's tons of them. How to do a tune-up in your car, how to do an oil change, how to make a raincoat out of a trash bag. So there's tons of how-tos in this particular comic. Now you can't create comics with howtoons.com, but what you can do is you can use any of the 30 comic creation tools that I've bookmarked, and then you can use that after they have this comic creation. After they see one of the concepts, then they can learn how to make a step-by-step process. One of the great things about this that would really work is recipes, because one of the things about recipes is when you're showing how to cook, and the instructions in recipes is very good language. It's commands, and it also has math, so different types of quarts and quantities, and you can teach a lot of non-count nouns that way as well. So you can have them take a recipe, something that they know how to cook, or maybe their parents' favorite recipe or great grandmother's recipe. And then what they can do is they can put in the comic book form, and they can give a visual instruction of the different steps and what it's supposed to look like. The great thing about a lot of these comic tools is sometimes they can even upload their own pictures as well, or they can draw and then they can upload that. The reason why you want to use a comic book tool to publish it online is so that way that it could be available for lots of people, because once the students put all that effort in creating the comic, excuse me, then they'll really want to have comments for it. They want people to see their work. So it's a great way to have them do that. Toondoo.com, another really, really fantastic comic creation tool. And so with that, you can create different dialogues. So here is one that I had from Toondoo. And what he's doing is he's asking this girl out. And so you can do things like pick up lines. And I tell my students, okay, so you're going to, because in pickup lines, they're really funny. But one of the great things about English pickup lines is you have to understand the language quite well. It is colloquial language. It's vernacular. It's what people use every day. So, for example, I heard one today. It was, did it hurt when you fell down? And then the girl says, what? And he says, yes, when you fell down from heaven. So they're kind of corny, but they're very, very funny. And so then you can have your students recreate that. And my challenge is the girl has to say a good comeback to that, like a nice way to put that person down. And there's actually a site that has putting down, how to, like, funny ways to put down someone's, to turn down one of these crazy pickup lines. So it would be a great way to show them that. The other idea is to summarize reading. So after you read a chapter, for example, of Jane Eyre, maybe you read an article. Let's say you read an entire article, then you can have your students go and they can summarize the ideas from the chapter in a comic strip. It's great to explore various definitions of a word. So if you go in a dictionary, one of the things that you'll find is that there's 10 different uses for the same word. So when they're doing the comic, then they can explore the different ways that they do that. For example, the concept of love, maybe it can be a concrete noun or an abstract noun. So let's say they're trying to find the connotations of it. So for example, for Valentine's, you have the love of a family. You have the love when you say, oh, I love chocolate. Well, that's very different from saying, I love my dog. So you can have them explore different types of connotations of a word, or you can have where there's homonyms, I believe, where there, and there, to teach the difference between spelling, the difference between how a word is used. I am going to mail you a letter, but I'm also going to pick up the mail. So one's used as a verb and then one's used as a noun. So they can do all of this kind of playing with comics because the comics visualize it. They do the context, and with the context is the visualization. So in one panel they can show the one way to use a word, the next one, and the next one, and so forth. So they can show it in different panels, the different ways to use the word. They can recreate a moment in history. So if you're talking about, for example, you're studying, a lot of times in CLIL you teach history and different things like that. So if you're doing a historical moment, then what they can do is they can recreate that. A lot of these tools, like Criaza is really fantastic because Criaza has historical figures. So you'll find things from the Romans time period, you'll find political figures, you'll find Obama, you'll find I think Nelson Mandela, and different types of people. So they can actually take that character and they can put it in there, and then they can show what happened from that particular time period. You can post a debate. So this is a great way to get them to explore different issues inside a debate. Let's say, for example, gun control. So they can have two people arguing in each panel and debating the issues of gun control or whatever type of topic that you would like them to debate. And it's a great way to show the different viewpoints. It's a great way for them to explore different viewpoints as well. If you're reading an article about it, sometimes the article, all of the viewpoints are kind of mashed in there. So what they can do is you can give them two articles. For example, let's say you're studying gun control or the debt crisis or something like that. And you give them two articles, one pro, one con. And then what they can do is they can put in comic form the different arguments. They have two people arguing the topic, and one is from this article and one is from the other article. And it's a great way to summarize all their thoughts, and that's a higher order thinking skill. There's many different types of cool tools and apps that go along with this. And I don't know why I put that there, but there's the link again if you want for the bookmarks. And I'll add that as well because all of these you can find bookmarks here, but we're not finished yet. Makebelieve.comic.com. It's a really fantastic resource. It's one of the other comic creation tools that's really good as well. The best thing about Make Believe comics is that I think you can embed this, that they'll actually give you picture and stuff for this. Wittycomics.com, that's another really good one. This would be good for the political cartoons. This one would be to debate, the debating idea. The great thing about this one, well, the thing with these is you do have to sign up for them. So when you choose a different comic and tool, you want something that's pretty versatile. Unfortunately, you do have to sign up for a lot of these. I think Elizabeth Ann, who's in here, who's our mentor for the Evil session, is actually, and if I'm sorry if it's not the Elizabeth Ann from the Evil, but you can find her at E.Ann Grenoble at on Twitter. So I'll go ahead and put that down. And she did this great comic from Shogger, and she tells you how to use, she tells you about using Shogger.com. But the great thing about this one, and you can see where she has that comic right there. I have the address on the bottom. Shogger is great because you don't have to register for it, which is what I learned from Elizabeth Ann. So it's one of those things that would be a great idea to use, since a lot of times you may not want your students to register. The other good thing about it is it actually takes your images as well. So she has an example of an image there as well. So it's a great way to show these things as well. There's one called comiclife.com. You can actually make, Comic Life is software. You can download it for free to your Mac or to your Windows. There's an app, but the app on the iPad is $5, so just to let you know. But it is free if you download it to the computer. So it's not an online tool per se, but it's really great because it allows them to upload their drawings. It allows them to put text, and then of course the pictures. But the other thing it does is it puts them together in a book. So they actually make a whole entire book, not just one panel. So they can make a graphic novel. This would be great for the research, where I said you can do the research and stuff. They can create a whole book of it online. And so that's comiclife.com. It's software that you download. It is free software that you can download. And you can see an example. This is from an elementary student who's doing a tell, George and the Dragon. Comic Touch Life, and you can see Roscoe. I told you he was going to teach you some stuff. This is the one that I use. Once again, there's several apps that are for Android and for iOS devices. This Comic Touch Lite, make sure you get the Lite version, is for your iPod, your iPad. It's very simple to use. You just use bubbles. Now, one of the things you have to do, though, is you have to take screenshots when you're using this kind of a tool. I don't know why, but the free versions seem to do this, where they don't give you the option to download the picture, or maybe it's just my device. So how do you do screenshots? I'll show you. It's quite easy on an iPod device, and then I can show you how I do it with the Android as well. So you have to click the top and then the button at the same time. So, oh, sorry. Okay, so you see this round button right here? You take the round button right there, and you have to click that first. And then you can see, let me show you, dark. This click right here you see a click. You got to do those at the same time. So if I want to take a screenshot, then let me do that. Hold on. And it took a picture. See? So it takes a picture whatever's on your screen. And that's how I save a lot of the pictures. I keep the logo made with Comic Touch That Light because I think you have to do that. I'm going to do the same thing and show you how to do this with the comic strip. So that's the way you do it for that. Make sure you get Comic Strip Light. This is for Android, Comic Strip It Light for Android. You can see where I made another one with Roscoe. We actually got bunny slippers for presenting 35 webinars now for Simple K through 12. So they gave me little bunny slippers I'm very excited about. Of course, Roscoe tried to eat the ears. He's terrible, I know. So let me show you what that looks like. So that's how I took this one because I couldn't figure out how to download it. You can add more panels to this, so this one's a great one because it has lots of options, even with the light version. So to take a screenshot with your Droid, then all you do is you press the home button, and a lot of them you can press the home button here in the middle, the same concept, and press the top again, just like kind of I showed you with the other one. So, I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm pressing the home, and there we go. See, it took a picture. Ta-da! Here's some more ideas. Sorry, you can't. I guess they did a little bit. You can retell a chapter. You can create digital stories. You can put math word problems in them. You can detail things in a reading, such as a plot, symbolism, theme, setting. You can put in a poem. You can include this as a journal entry. I do this with my students, my language learners. I like to spice it up and give them different types of writing when they do daily journals. So one of the things that they do is they'll maybe have to write a quote, and then the next day they have to write an email or a letter. And so it's different prompts every day for their journal writing. It's just not them writing essays. And so one of the things they do, I tell them to create a comic, write a comic, include that in their online journal or in their online blog. So you can use it as a blog prompt. A lot of times teachers say, I don't blog with my students because my students aren't motivated. Well, you motivate them by giving challenges. Each week is a different challenge. So if you have a blog once a week, you say, you create a comic representing this or that. You can have it for them to tell digital storytelling and also to teach intonation. So you can put exclamation marks if you're having, that's one of the things in comics is they have to show how they yell, how they shout. So it's a great way to teach intonation as well. And assessment. I learned this from another Evo moderator, which is really fantastic, which is Jen Bershore. And she's from Argentina. And you will recognize Jen because Jen has been one of the TESOL, our guest speakers. So this is Jen Bershore on Twitter. And when she was the main moderator and mentor and teacher for our go to Ruby Star and you'll find this. So it works well for assessment because a lot of times teachers say, well, that's all nice and it's great, but how am I going to grade that? Well, now you have a great tool to grade it with, thanks to Jennifer. And there's also lots of free rubrics there, and you can manipulate them and things as well. This is one of the greatest tools that I have found. Janet Bianchini, she's one of the participants, but she has written so much great information about comics. She has what's called a scoop it. A scoop it is every day she has bookmarks that she puts on about comic creation tools and how teachers use it. She has literally hundreds of different types of it's just a wonderful resource. Anything you could, and it is geared for language learning as well. So check out her Scoop It. She also has different blog posts that are really, really, really fantastic. So if you go to her blog, you'll find a whole entire section on it. Let me go ahead and give you that. But it's really, she's just done a fantastic job of really portraying so many ways that you can use comics. Here she's combining tools. She has comics and cartoons and how she uses it with PhotoPeach, which is a free slide sharing device, multimedia tool. There you can, this is a wonderful site. I shared it in the very first webinar I did a year ago on comics. And so I'll give you the recording of that particular one as well. But the one thing about it is that is the Grammar Man. Now, Grammar Man has video comics as well. All of these are absolutely free. It's really fantastic, everything that the Grammar Man site has to offer. So it helps with that tedious process of having to teach grammar and stuff. So I think it's really quite good. So I'm going to give you the link to find the previous session as well. But this is Grammar Man. He had tons of different grammar concepts he explores. This is what the comic looks like. The mysterious hero who defends the verbal city and fight those responsible for bad English. And then he has different concepts that he teaches as well. He has YouTube videos and his friend syntax and aliens. So he does different things as well. He teaches really difficult concepts and things as well. So you can get an idea of it. You'll find all of these bookmarks. I've bookmarked all of these things. So these are, you can find all of this definitely in the bit.ly address, but you can also find them from this tools as well. Let me go ahead and give you where I taught the first time about different types of comics in the classroom. You'll find it right here, which is the previous recording. Thank you so much for attending, and if you have any questions or anything like that, you're more than welcome to go to the bit.ly address, or you can find me at shellyterrell@gmail.com, or you can simply go to shellyterrell.com and you'll find all of these wonderful things. So let me go ahead and give you the links so you can get your webinars, you can have all the links, you can have the slides. Thank you so much for being with us, and those of you who have been to many of the 100 webinars that we have done for American TESOL, well over 100 now. Thank you so much. Oh, well, good, Rosanna. I'm glad you had a great time. And who was the other one who it was their first time? Was it Mohammed?